Beautiful souls. Welcome to Woo Girl Radio, where I, your host, Lionheart Leo, chat all things spirituality, spiritual awakening, past lives, Akashic records, manifestation, and how to develop your psychic abilities and your intuition in a low-key, easy way. I have been a past life healer and an Akashic records reader for over 11 years, so I've helped hundreds of clients and thousands of souls release what's going on in their past lives and step into a beautiful new future. No one wants old patterns holding us back, and that's really what I specialize in, is helping you move forward with ease and grace as you release these toxic patterns and ideas that you developed usually out of survival in a past life. So if you'd like to work with me, all my info is linked down below. And it would also be great if you're on YouTube, if you hit that bell and subscribe. That way you get notified whenever we upload new content and new episodes, and it helps out the channel like you wouldn't believe. If you're on Spotify or Stitcher, Apple Music, or anywhere you get your podcast, make sure you subscribe as well, and that way you get notified when new episodes get released there as well. Leave a comment, share it with a friend, and, just help spread the love, because I love you and I'm so happy that you're here. This week on the episode, we are talking about spiritual awakening, how to chat with your spirit guides, how to empower yourself in your day-to-day life. Like, you don't have to have this huge, complicated routine. And we're chatting with Nina from Firefly Oracle. She goes by @FireflyVibin on all of her socials. And it's really beautiful because Nina grew up Catholic. She had this beautiful spiritual awakening right as the pandemic was setting in. And we really just have a friendly chat where it feels like we're all friends in the room. And it's just beautiful to be able to easily talk about spirituality. I think a lot of us who are on our spiritual journey might not have a lot of people in our day-to-day life that we can just casually chat to. So I love making these episodes for you. So it feels at least like you got some friends in the room who have your back. Nina offers beautiful oracle card readings where first she'll journey into the spirit world, get messages from your spirit guides, come back, and then pull some cards for you as well to really solidify the messages. So it's beautiful to experience. If you want to book a reading with her, all of that will be linked down below. And I'm really excited to get into today's episode. So without further ado, here is Woo Girl Radio episode 8. I'm so happy you're here, friends. Hey everyone, welcome to Woo Girl Radio. We're here with Nina today, who has just started her own oracle card reading and kind of spiritual messages business. And I wanted to bring her on the podcast today because I think we just have so much in common. And I think it's really important for anyone listening who's like thinking of starting their spiritual journey or just had their spiritual awakening to realize like how normal a lot of these things are. So I'm really excited. Thank you so much for being here, Nina, and chatting with us. And we're just going to get right into it, talk about our progression through spiritual awakening, building our intuition, all that kind of stuff today. And hopefully you can take some beautiful tidbits of wisdom and knowledge out of it if it resonates with you. So welcome, Nina. How's your day going?
Thank you. My day's good. I just cleaned my whole house for the summer solstice and getting ready, and I did a nice cleansing, so I feel good. Just ate a whole bag of popcorn.
I love that. So good. I wish, honestly, I was on your level right now because my house is a mess. So maybe that's like an evening summer solstice activity for me.
It was pretty messy. I washed like every blanket, every pillowcase, everything. My water bill is going to be sky high.
Oh, that sounds so good though. Like when you crawl into fresh sheets, like so good. So
I know.
yeah, so worth it.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I know we were talking before we started recording about this idea of cleansing for summer solstice and kind of making it a bit of a ritual kind of a thing. Do you want to just kind of walk us through what kind of your intro into spiritual life was like, or your spiritual awakening, or that kind of an idea? Because I think a lot of us are like, do you only have one spiritual awakening? Like, is this okay? Am I doing the right thing? Did I go down the right rabbit hole on YouTube or TikTok or whatever? Am I reading the right books? And I think you just have a beautiful story to share about it. So
Thank you. Yeah. So growing up, I grew up in like a Catholic household, went to Catholic grade school, high school, and religion always kind of scared me. a lot of the revelation stuff really scared me. Churches scared me. And I never really felt safe. And I had developed a big fear of death because of it. Not knowing what happens after we die, or if I do something wrong when I die, and things of that nature. So growing up and into my adult life, I developed such a fear that when people would predict like the end of the world or the planet's going to blow up, I would call out of work and sit in my bedroom and be around my animals, because if I was going to die, I wanted to be with my animals. But it was so paralyzing. I stopped going to concerts. I stopped going to carnivals. I stopped literally doing anything that was fun, because what turned into, from like, this sounds kind of scary, to like, it was so paralyzing. I couldn't watch. So like my fiance loves to watch like space stuff and like animal shows, like documentaries. And sometimes it talks about like, the ice caps are melting, and I would like turn it off, because all I could think about is, now the ice caps are melting and we're going to die. Like everything led to we're going to die. And that was terrifying for me. And I realized like I couldn't live my life like this anymore. So I started to go to therapy for it. And I was in therapy for 4 years for it. And while it was still very scary, I did not fully come to terms with feeling safe until 2020, when I found TikTok and, spiritual TikTok. And I went down a bunch of different rabbit holes. And the information on TikTok is so overwhelming. There's so many different beliefs and spiritual practices and things of that nature. I didn't know what I could do or what I couldn't do, or what I could believe or couldn't believe. And it's been about a year now. And I think what I've learned the most is to trust myself. And what resonates with me is the safest and best option for me and my highest good. So I think it's important to do your research and listen to what other people say, but you'll know at the end of the day what's good for you. And I think it's really important to develop your intuition and your trust within yourself before anything outside of yourself, so that you always know what's right for you, if that makes any sense.
Oh, I love that. That's like my main philosophy, is like, if it resonates for you, it's for you. If it doesn't resonate with you, don't worry too much about it right now. So
yeah. And what happened like right around I found spiritual TikTok, I was like, first and foremost, my dog's name is Michael, and Michael Jackson has been my idol since I was a child. So the name Michael is just like my favorite. I was driving home from work one day, and I was coming off the bridge, was on a highway, very busy highway, and my car had spun sideways. I went to like change lanes, it spun sideways, and I was like headed for the wall. And I just grabbed my steering wheel and closed my eyes in preparation to crash. And I didn't crash, and I opened my eyes and my car was forward. And there was nobody around me, no other cars. And I knew in that moment something bigger happened. So I then don't remember how I stumbled upon the fact that there was an angel named Michael, an archangel. I never ran so fast to Barnes and Nobles, and I bought so many books on Archangel Michael. And then of course I looked him up all over TikTok. And then I came across a YouTube video of yours from a reading of Archangel Michael. And I was like, no way, can she really talk to angels? And I found you on every platform. And I think that you have been probably the most influential in my spiritual growth. And I don't know, it's just something about you that resonated with me and made me feel so safe. And then you, like you said, you're very big on trusting yourself and what resonates with you. And I think that you taught me that. So yeah, I don't know. I owe a lot of my growth, I feel to you.
oh, that's so cute. And I'm so happy we connected and everything. And it's funny because I remember making that video and I never made pick a cards. I think it's one of the only pick a cards I have.
Oh wow.
On that channel. I mean, maybe I'll make more in the future, but it's never really felt like my calling is to be a card reader. But I was like, I think I need to journey on this. So I would go into the spirit world. Michael showed me what cards he wanted me to physically pull out of my deck. So I didn't shuffle. He was like, you pick this one, and this one. And it was a pretty new deck. I didn't even know I had some of those cards in there. But when I went to look at the images, it's that image existed in the card deck. So I was like, okay, this is real. And yeah, I just felt really called to make it. So it's like, I wonder if that was for you kind of a thing, or to bring us together,
It definitely
whatever.
it definitely had to be because um once I found out there was an angel named Michael, I was like, I need to learn all about this Michael. And then I feel like he, like, now I'm thinking about it, he definitely made you make that so that I could be led to you. That was
Right?
just for me.
Yeah. And it's,
Um
I don't make many of those. So it's so funny that like at that moment in your life when you needed it was when it was like, hey
yeah.
girl, like do this today, please. Please upload it today.
I'll never forget it. I was on a run and I was just like, I stopped and I was like, let me go on YouTube. This would, who goes on YouTube in the middle of a run?
I mean, I go on YouTube to clean my house sometimes. I'll find a pick a card reading and be like cleaning, listening to the advice. I've probably been blocking out from my guides all week. YouTube gets
So yeah, my the the roll into my spiritual practice was really like a happy accident. I almost had an accident, and then I do believe in my heart that Michael was like, nope, fix my car, and then was like, meet Leona.
I'm so glad you were okay in that because it's like very traumatic. Like,
I
yeah.
was going to crash. And in that moment I knew something was bigger. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna start like going down the rabbit hole. I felt like safe enough to go down the rabbit hole. I'm always so back then I was always so afraid to even like read certain things or listen to certain things. I definitely have some like inner trauma from like my childhood that played a big
Yeah.
part in that.
Yeah. And I think too, it's interesting that you talked about your Catholic upbringing too, because I get this with a lot of my clients as well, is a lot of people who go through not just Catholic, but like all sorts of different religions, like have certain fears kind of instilled in them. And to me, it's always felt like religion can bring a lot of community and joy. It's not that I'm bashing religion as a whole. Some of my best memories being with my mother-in-law is going to her church and having a community meal with all the people in the church. And it feels very loving. And I can feel the love in that space when everyone's like having food after a service and vibing.
Yeah.
So love that aspect of it. But like anything that feels like a deep dread or fear coming from religion just doesn't feel like this idea of like God or the divine or the universe, whatever you want to call it. But I think that definitely has like a lasting impact maybe on a chapter of our life, if not the rest of our lives, kind of a thing.
Yeah, I'm the youngest of three kids, and so I got drugged with my mom everywhere. Everywhere she went, I had to go because I was the baby. And in my mom, I don't want to say she was a teenager. She definitely wasn't a teenager where she had me, but in her younger years, she was also trying to. Now I look at my mom as just a person with her trauma. We had a really tough past, but now I appreciate and love her for who she is and what she grew up with. But in her younger years, she was also trying to figure out her own life. And as the baby going everywhere with her, my mom bounced around from church to church to church. So I was introduced to so many different types of religion and beliefs, and some of them were so scary. And just not ever knowing which one was I was supposed to believe, and seeing so many different ones at such a young age, I never even really got to process any of it. So I think that not having a consistent belief or religion in my life also played a part in that.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that like kind of the spiritual awakening you've had in 2020 and into 2021 is almost like coming home for you? Like, does it have a sense of kind of being settled, or are you kind of still like figuring things out a bit, or a little bit of
No,
both?
I'm getting like emotional about it. The way I can explain my spiritual awakening is, it's so funny. In 2020, when the pandemic happened, when a lot of the world was forced to be in their houses, people wearing masks, and a lot of lives were lost in probably a time in my life where I should have been the most afraid. I've never felt so safe. And I don't, and the only way I can explain it, like I was on like anxiety medication, and I just, like, once I stopped being so afraid of death, I was like, I want to see if I can lean into my spiritual, practices rather than continue to take the medication. I was medicated for 6 years. I don't regret it. I think if medication helps you, you should absolutely take it. And I did for a long time. It was just, I've reached my point with medication. It did its job for me. And I leaned into my spiritual practices, and then I started taking some of your courses. about your intuition and asking for signs. And I definitely felt at home because I like took that and ran with it. I didn't just ask for like, you know, regular signs. I asked for like things that don't exist and things that I would never see so that I couldn't guess it because that I couldn't second guess it because I believe the ego will definitely come and try to protect you and be like, you know, you'd see this or this was a coincidence. So I didn't leave that to chance. And the first few times it happened, I was like, oh my God, like this is real. I have a spiritual team. And yeah, it was definitely like almost like a rebirth.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because I believe everything I put in intuition boot camp. Like I made it very guided by my spirit guides, like for a reason, for a purpose. But I was a little bit of imposter syndrome when I put it out there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope this works for other people. Like, gonna put that out there. And then on the Facebook group, we have a private Facebook group. I started seeing all these stories coming up where people would talk about the signs that they asked for and it coming true. And they were, you know, using their intuition and asking their spirit team for signs for things like buying a house or like re-enrolling, like big things and little things in life too. And I'd like it re-solidified my faith in it because even though I was like, yeah, I think this is a good message. I like this is what I've done. This is what's helped me. Put it in a little course packaged up for everyone. Seeing people like you just like run with it and having these amazing experiences that like I can't explain is like deeper faith for me too, where I'm like, yeah, this like doesn't just work for me. It works for like other people, the collective. So I love seeing everyone
Yeah.
sharing their stuff about that. Because I think one of the biggest one was that owl, right? Like, didn't you ask for like a purple owl or
I
something?
did. I asked for a purple owl and I went out that day and I went to like 5 stores. I even went to a Hallmark store where they have like, you know, the most bizarre things. I looked at like birthday cards. I looked at their section of stuffed animals. I went to a couple of stores to like look for the owl. I didn't see it. And then I like went on TikTok. I was like, someone's gonna have like an owl or something. I didn't see it. And like a week went by and I was like, all right, maybe, you know, X, Y, and Z just wasn't meant to be or whatever. And then I went to see a friend of mine who lives down the shore, and I hadn't seen her in over a year because of the pandemic. And, you know, she had just gotten vaccinated. And she was like, let's hang out. And we had no plans to leave her house. We were going to just catch up and hang out in the house. And just out of the blue, she was like, oh my God, I have to take you to this little like trinket shop. And we went, I walked in and just hanging on the wall was a little tiny owl and it was purple and it was the only one in the shop and the tag said so little so small so loved by all, and so I bought it and it's I hung it on my rearview mirror and it comes with me everywhere I drive.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
And the
I think
funny thing is I can't remember in this moment why I asked for the owl, but it doesn't matter at this point. Even it was just like a lovely reminder that they were like, here it is.
yeah. And that's kind of like there's a whole formula and stuff we go over in boot camp, but like essentially it's like start asking for things because I think a lot of us kind of almost this religious based construct of like you're bothering your spirit guides if you ask them for stuff. Like don't ask them for too much. Like kind of this like they're better than you kind of attitude gets like programmed into us. Like who do you think you are to ask for a parking spot? Who do you think you are to ask for this? If you want to ask for like $1 million or something really big or your dream career, like you better really work for it or really be humble about like all these constructs. And it's really about breaking down those ideas where it's like, no, just
Yeah.
start asking and see what happens, like test the universe almost. So I love that you've just like taken that and made it your own. And now like all of the TikToks I see of yours are like you talking about all the signs you get. And I'm always like, yes, when I see them. I'm like,
Yes. The way I like try to explain to people, because also I was very didn't want to tell anybody about my new spirituality or that I had spirit guides or talk to them because not everybody receives it well. But the way I try to explain like my relationship with my spirit guides, because when you first started explaining it to me, you always explained it that they're just like watching and waiting. And so I always picture them like, is she gonna ask for something today? So I started asking for like I think the first thing I honestly ever asked them for was like, should I dye my hair red? because I was doing like some inner child stuff and I was like trying to like step into my spirituality and I just really wanted to dye my hair. And I was like, they're not going to answer that. Like, it's just hair. They're probably got like better things to do. And I asked for like a duck with a hat and they gave me this sign. And I was like, really? Something like so little? And now it's so much fun because I feel like I have these best friends who that I can't like physically see, but like I know they're there. I know they're listening to me. And I do it with the parking spot stuff all the time. And I do it, it's funny, I do it with my fiance. I'll be like, what angel number do you want to see today? And I'll be like, where do you want to park? Because we'll go in and I'll have this spot and I'll be like, there's the angel number. And like the other day we did it and I was like, oh look, what are the odds? He was like, I'm guessing good since it happens every time. And it's funny because he is not spiritual. He doesn't really believe in anything, but he like obviously supports anything I want to do. So it's just so funny that they're like these best friends that I have. And I know that they're always gonna give me an answer if it's in my highest good. That's something I think a lot of us need to keep in mind. But if it's in your highest good, they'll help you. And I can't explain what it's like to have them. Like if I have a big meeting or something, I'll just be like quick chat with them. And if I'm scared, I just envision like these, beings behind me, like, holding space for me or protecting me. It's really like, I can't really explain it. My life is so different.
Yeah. And even like through the pandemic, I found like I used to be such a touchy-feely person. Like my love language is physical touch. Like when I'm with my fiance, I'm always like scratching his hand or like just fiddling, like just touching him in some way. Not like just in a chill, not always sexual kind of
Yeah.
way. Just like I just always want to be like touching the people that I'm really connected to. Like I was one of those cuddly friends. All through the pandemic, I've been like heckin' alone, like and I haven't felt alone because I feel like my spirit crew has just been like spiritually hugging me the whole time. So
Yeah.
when they're like, you need 8 hugs a day for good mental health, I'm like, I've had great mental health through the pandemic, I think, because I've developed that relationship where, like you say, when you go into that meeting, you feel them behind you kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
When I go to sleep at night, I call on them, I ask them for help, and I feel safer. I sleep deeper, I sleep better. Just it's like it's so hard to put into words the
I
feeling of
know.
that like deep security and safety and just like you say best friends is I think the best way you can describe it because they're not any like better than you, I don't think.
No, they never make me feel that way ever.
Mhm.
And like they'll show up like in the like cutest or funniest ways. Like you always say, spirit speaks to us in a way that makes sense to us. And like some days I feel like they're just like, I think I'll blow her mind today. And other days they're like, I think I'll make her laugh today. Like they really do have like this banter. Like it's not even just like, oh, here's your sign. Like there's so much more than that.
Yeah, and that's a lot of the time how I know it's like either when my client's spirit guide's coming through or like my spirit guide coming through is a lot of
Right.
the time it's funny. Like a lot of the time there's like some tongue in cheek or some sass or like and it's like sass with like an unconditional love underneath it. So it's not like rude sassy, but it's like I
Yeah.
know you're a sassy person, so I'm gonna meet you where you're at and be a little like spiritually sassy with you kind of a thing. But like
Yep.
they really do have a sense of humor, like which I love. Makes you kind of take life a little bit less seriously in a like constructive way, I think.
Yeah, it also makes me giggle because once I started to like kind of step out of my comfort zone and decide that I was going to own and my spirituality and be open with it. Um, I do this all the time. I'll ask for a sign and then I'll run upstairs to this one girl at work and I'll be like, I just need to look around your office because she's got so much funny stuff in her office. And she knows she'll be like, you looking for a sign from your guides? Like at this point, I'll be like, I need to just check your office for this sign. So sometimes they'll like, leave it in her office. But one thing I did start doing is I started to ask them to send me, in an image or, tell me what they want me to look for. If I'm really thinking of something, like I can't think of what I want to ask, I'd be like, can you just send it to me real quick? And the first thing I hear or see, I'm like, all right, let's go find
Hmm. I love that. Yeah, because I think people are way more psychic than they realize. Like, I'm sure I say this all the time in my lives and everything, but I'm just like, I think everyone is spiritual. Like, I think everyone is psychic. And I think the way that
it.
we develop our abilities is just like being more open to it. Cause,
You
like,
know, I have a story
yeah.
about my sister's spiritual awakening. who my sister also does not believe in anything. Her husband also very space science guy. Um, my sister and my mom came over, and I'm very open with them at this point about my spirituality. And it was the first time I pretty much saw my sister since the pandemic, but she's watched my TikToks and, talked to me, things of that nature. And she was like over our house, and she was like really just not happy with her job and really wanted to change careers. But she had been there for like 15 years, and she was like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, well, why don't you ask your guides, let them know that they have permission to interject in your life? I said, why don't we take a walk? And I was like, just humor me, ask them for a sign. And she was like, okay. So we're walking, and I was like, why don't you just ask for an angel number? And she was like, well, there's 1217 on an address, which is her birthday. And I was like, oh my God, that's so exciting. And then we looked to the left, and there were 4 9s on a license plate, which is her favorite number. And as we're going, I'm looking up like what all these numbers mean, which are pretty much like follow your heart. You can do this, things of that nature. And I was so overstimulated just by like those two things. I was like freaking out. And then a car drove by that had magic on the license plate. And she was like, okay, these are all coincidences. And I was like, then ask them for something like a sign, something you can hold. And I was like, the first thing that pops in your head. And she was like, I don't know, a pink peonies, which is the flower that she walked down the aisle with. And my mom was like, but it's not even summer. And she was like, I think that's the point. And I was like, exactly. I said, you could see a picture of it, somebody could buy you the flowers. And we're walking, we're going to a specific park, and I happened to see this pink flower. It was like a fake flower on the ground. And I stepped to the side and I said, is this a peony? She stopped in her tracks. She picked it up. Her jaw was on the floor. And she was like, I don't understand. She was like, this is the closest thing to a peony as I'm going to get. And it was like of this bright pink flower. It just didn't have a stem or anything. It was just the actual, like the bloom, I guess.
Yeah.
And she turned around. We went to the dollar store. She got a vision board. She went and got like a yoga mat. She went on Audible and like went crazy with the spiritual books. And now she every day is telling me when she gets a sign, and she meditates every day now. She told me her spirit guide's name. Like she dove headfirst into it. And she should be following me now. I told her to follow you. But her spiritual awakening happened on like a whim on a walk by me teaching her the things that you taught me. And it's just so funny that now she's like all about it, and going from not believing in anything to now she has like an altar set up. She does her whole like ritual, which is so cute.
Oh my gosh, I
Yeah,
love that. That's like the cutest thing I've ever heard. That's so cute.
yeah,
And good for her too, because I think it's easy to get kind of stuck in like, well, things have always been this way. So like, no, it's
yeah.
just another coincidence. And she like opened the crack enough that she was like, holy shit, this flower means
Yeah, I mean,
something.
there was like no way that like if she would have been like, well, that's a coincidence, I probably would have like drove her home. I'm like, there's no way this could be a coincidence. Like it's just so funny. And yeah, so now she's on her spiritual journey, and it's only been a couple of months, but even she is like pretty connected. All our like passed on loved ones have started visiting her in dreams. And I think it's so amazing that like once you just open yourself up and you just, let them know, I want to communicate with you. Oh, they will. Like they want to
Mhm.
communicate with us.
Yeah. And I think too, like for anyone who's freaked out, like knowing you can set boundaries with your guides or the universe, because I hate seeing shadows and stuff move in my house. So I'm like, even if that's a spirit guide, like I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it unless like a natural disaster is about to happen and you really need to get my
Right.
attention. Like, please no, please no. So if you're a little
Oh,
freaked out of being like, I really want to communicate, but what if this and what if that and what if that, like just tell them what you're okay with and what you're not okay with. And I think both you and I really put that into practice, and
yeah.
relaxing.
I had a spirit guide come to me as like a huge bright light. Like I was like laying down and I could see it like coming behind me, and it scared me, and I turned around and it was gone. And I was like, don't do that. Like boundary set, like that is scary to me. But I did say you could come to me in a dream or come to me in a meditation or a journey. And actually today I was sitting here like waiting for you to come on. I was like looking down and I could see something, and I like looked up and it like quick moved, and I was like, okay, whatever that was, that's not no more. And I don't know if it's because I just like, smoke cleansed or whatever, and it was just like on its way out. I don't know. But I
Yeah.
was like, that wasn't nice. And that scares me.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like one day maybe we'll be at the point where like that feels good to
Yeah.
us. But I'm like, right now, I'm like, I like my peace of mind in like my home. Like, I'm like,
Yeah, me too.
yeah. But it's funny because they show up a lot on TikTok. So like I'll just make a random TikTok, I'll upload it, and people will be like, is that an orb of light? Or like, is anyone else seeing this thing? And I'm like, I didn't while I was filming that or uploading it, but like you are right, that is there kind of a thing.
There
So
is one of your TikToks that you posted recently that I watched it a couple times and I was like, what is this? And I just kept like watching it come up and I was like, it's so cool. And I actually have a TikTok of mine that I just won't post because it's like the only TikTok I have where I have an orb. And I think it's just like special to me. So I like don't want anyone else to see it. It's just for me.
aw, so cute. I love that. Yeah.
But like I watch it all the time and I'm like, and I like watch it go by. It's
Right.
like
So
it's
it's like,
not it's
yeah,
not scary in video.
right. And it's like, I think we're afraid to set boundaries with our guides or with the universe because I think we're like, oh my God, it's going to shut us down completely. And it's like, they're just looking for the easiest way to communicate with us.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't freak us out to see it in a video, they'll probably show up in a video. But if they know popping up in their truest form at the end of our bed is going to like send us into a existential cosmic spiral, like they probably won't do that until we're ready for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so when you're asking for your signs, I think as Nina was talking about, like asking for something that's like unbelievable enough, it gives you that faith, like the flower, even like the series of events for you to get to like the Michael stuff, right after that
Yeah.
like wild car
Some of the
accident.
things, some of the things I've asked for, once I asked for an orange bird, because aren't like a full orange bird. Like, orange birds don't really exist like in my area. And I will also set boundaries and say not on social media because I feel like when you're scrolling through social media, especially like TikTok, there's a million different things you could see. So I do set the boundary and I'll say, please not on social media. So, show me something outside of myself or outside of my phone. I ask for the purple owl. Sometimes when yes or no, I'll say send me one shark or two sharks. I asked for a hammerhead once for something. Like I will ask for like weird things.
But I think
Today
that
I asked for a ladybug. I'm waiting for it.
oh, I love that. Yeah.
Not on my phone. So
Not on your phone. Yeah. Well, like that's something that could just wind up on your hand or,
right, yeah.
I woke up at 3:33 in the morning once and there was a ladybug sitting on my bed and I hadn't opened my window in like weeks
Oh,
at that point. And I lived on the third floor. I'm like, how did it get in here?
oh,
Like we hadn't had our windows or doors or anything open where I was like, and it was just sitting there like someone had placed it there and I was like, oh my God. And it was at 3:33 in the morning. I just like woke up and
yeah.
picked it up and I looked down and there's this little tiny ladybug there. So I
I
scooped him up
love
and made sure he
that.
was safe. But I was like, holy heck. Like, so sometimes the universe works in mysterious ways where it's like, how did
I
that
love
happen? I don't
that.
know.
I will also
Yeah.
ask for so I see angel numbers like overwhelmingly like and I'm so grateful for it, don't ever take it away, but I will ask for specific ones, like I'll be like if this is a good, can you show me x, three sevens three times today or something like that, and they always come through with that too.
Or even I think the last time we talked, you're like, I think I saw 2 777s, and I'm like, I saw a 777 today, and you're
Yeah.
like, you're my third one, right?
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
sometimes it comes through in mysterious ways too, where
Yeah.
I've had like profound experiences, like waiting in line at like Taco Bell or something for like a burrito, really exhausted, and some stranger says something like exactly what I needed to hear to like shift my mood or my perspective, or like sometimes even change my life, and it's just the randomest thing. Just like coming into my life at like a Taco Bell or like a restaurant I
Hmm.
worked at or whatever.
Yeah, that's something my sister's learning. Like when she gets something that she feels is it's a sign, she'll be like, it has, four of the five things that I asked for. And I'm like, don't make it too complicated. Like just if it feels like it was a sign for you and it checks off your boxes, it's a sign. Like you don't have
Mhm.
to make things so complicated. So
Yeah.
she's learning that like for instance, she asked for a cat with a blue shirt with glasses, and she happened to be, which I thought was great because that's a very specific sign. Because I told her to get specific, and she was at the store, and she saw like there was a cat with glasses on a plaque and the background was blue, but it was just his face. She was like, but he's not wearing a shirt. And I was like, but he checks all your boxes. I was like, I'm sure that's your sign. Like, you don't have to make it too complicated. They will come through as best as they can.
Yeah. And even like, I'm so skeptical. I'm like, ask for a
Mhm.
few of them. Like, if you get your
Yeah.
one sign and you're still like, I know I should believe this, but like, I don't know. Like, be like, thank you, universe, for sending me this. And then almost it's like, and now just to be sure, because you know how anxious or nervous I am about this, can you send me a this? Like, I appreciate it. Thank you. But I'm still not 100% sold because my ego or whatever, is in the way, my fears. And usually the second sign will come through too, I find. It's like,
Yeah. I actually have a story about how I overcame the fear of my COVID vaccine and my signs. Yeah, if I could share
yeah,
that real
I
quick.
love that. Yeah, let's chat about that because I think that's a fear a lot of us have gone through this year.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot, yeah, 'cause there's a lot of fear mongering about it. Um, anyway, so I asked for a feather. I said, please show me a feather if it's safe to get the vaccine. And the next day I went outside and there was like this little teeny tiny feather. And I was like, thanks, but like, could I have a bigger feather? And I walked the whole yard and I didn't see it the next day. And I was like, well, I never look over here. And I went over there and there was like this little teeny tiny, it was a little bit bigger. And I was like, thank you. I feel safe, but like, could I please have like one more? I said, I would really like a big feather that like would be in my face that I could take on my altar. And like 2 days went by, I didn't see it. And then you and I had a session. And I had gotten my signs, and you had said one thing they told you, they want me to stop putting my power outside of myself, because I wasn't really afraid anymore. I felt that I was safe. I had gotten my signs, but I feel like I needed one more. But they were like, you're okay. I signed up for the vaccine after our session. I went on a run, and on my run, I found a huge black feather. It was perfect. I put it on my altar. And then the day of my vaccine, we have a peacock at work right now. I work with animals, just to put that out there. And the day of my vaccine, another girl was also getting vaccinated. And I went out to say goodbye to the peacock, and there was this beautiful peacock feather. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is like a protection feather. And I put it in my car and I went to go thank the peacock. And there was another one. And so I gave it to the girl who was also getting vaccinated. And because she's not like spiritual, but she adores feathers. So I was like, I feel like this was meant for you. Like this one's for me, this one's for you. So that was just like such a beautiful experience of getting my signs and continuing to ask, and then them still giving them to me. But also once you feel like you've gotten your sign, like sometimes it's okay to take it and run with it.
Oh, I love how they just kept getting bigger and more elaborate too. It's like they're like, here you go, here's a tiny
Yeah,
little
yeah.
one, and you're like, cool,
Yeah,
but
the first one was like a squirrel, like it was a squirrel fuzz, and I was like, can I have a bigger one?
and then
And then
like
I got it. Yeah.
the peacock feather at the end's probably like what, like this tall
Oh,
or something.
they're huge and they're so beautiful. And I just thought it was really beautiful that they actually gave me two, because this girl and I don't have the best relationship, and we've been really working on it the last few months. And I felt like they were almost like here's one for you and here's one for her. Like you're doing great.
Yeah, and it's
So
like once you've committed, they're like still showing you like you're
yeah,
good,
like
which I love.
exactly. Like once because you always say like we are them and they are us, like they're no better than us, and they don't want me to keep putting my power outside myself. And I was like, all right, I got my signs. They let me know they got my back. I signed up for it, and they were like, here's your feather. And then I didn't ask for any more after that. But then the day of, I almost feel like they were just like cheering me on, like, well, here's a feather for you, and here's one for her.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and I think too, like that idea of not putting your power outside of yourself, like is so important in like everything. So I just love that you like
Yeah.
embraced it and almost got like rewarded. Not like it should be all about like rewards and whatever, but like it's like a little nudge, like, yeah, you're on the right
Yeah.
path. Here you go.
Because I
Yeah.
feel like, it's great that we have these guides and things like that, but I feel like part of their job is to teach us to stand in our power and to trust ourselves and remember who we are and that we are source and, things of that nature. And I feel like that I was in a space for them to teach me that at that time. And, I have learned to just trust them so much that I rarely ever second guess if I don't get a sign. I'm like, well, that's not in my highest good right now. So I just like take whatever they say and I run with it. And I'm really like in this like go with the flow type thing. And I mean, not every day of my life is great, but it makes life less hectic and less painful when, you trust that something bigger is happening.
Yeah. And I think too, like, it's those little moments that add up together that make like a blessed week, a blessed month, a blessed life. And I think
Yeah.
so many of us want to go from like 0 to 100 or like 0 to 60 or whatever. And it's
Yeah.
like sometimes just like breaking it into little chunks. Like when I teach people to manifest and like manifest your morning coffee, like get into an empowered state, claim your coffee, manifest it,
Yeah.
say I accept it and I receive it now. And then you go have like an empowered cup of coffee and you're like, wow, I made this in seconds. Like, look how fast I manifest. And like those
Yeah.
little moments lay the groundwork, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It definitely didn't happen overnight. And like I learned to start recording when I get these, little inklings or little signs and synchronicities. And then before you know it, you're like, you go back like months and you're like, oh, I can't believe I forgot this happened. Or, oh, this day was so magical. But like, not every day is going to be magical. Like, we're still human. We're still in these meat suits. We still come to learn our lessons. So, no, not every day in my life do I get my signs. Not every day is like wonderful. Like, before we hit record, I was just telling you, I cried this whole week and I had a really human week. And sometimes that's what I need.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I don't want to do the work. I don't want to do my journaling. I don't want to do my meditation. Sometimes I just need to sit here and be human. So I think it's a
Yeah.
healthy, the fine line between like being spiritual and also being human and having a healthy balance. And, sometimes I have magical days and other days I have really muggle days.
Yeah. Oh, same here. Where it's like I think easy once you see people just on like social media and things like that to like kind of put them on a bit of a pedestal maybe or think that their life
Yeah.
is like not as challenging as yours, but it's like I guarantee you like anyone on your Instagram feed that you're like obsessing over or admiring, like not only do they just like have normal bodily functions, like everybody poops, everybody gets tired, like
Yeah.
but like they've had their bad days, they've had their fair share of things, and
Yeah.
it just
I'm
goes to
telling you,
show like
if I didn't record all this TikTok content like 2 weeks ago, I probably would have got like, booted off of TikTok because I didn't have the energy. I didn't have the mental space. Like some days I just have to be human.
yeah, and it's like you're just as spiritual as I don't know
Yeah.
Gabby Bernstein or like whoever we
Hmm.
may be like admiring. Like I'm obsessed with Denise Duffield Thomas and Shaman Durek, but like reminding ourselves that it's like, oh, they also are in a meat suit, they also have bad days,
Right.
they also don't always know the answer, like maybe they're a bit further on a specific journey than you, but like I think for anyone listening it's just like relax. It's okay. If Nina can do it and I can do it, you can do it. We're like chatting here
Yeah.
today about this because like all it takes is the intention, I think, sometimes of setting that intention, asking for a sign. And then when you're feeling like garbage, just feeling like garbage and having a cry is good. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Especially like a few weeks ago, I even like didn't go to work one day. Like I took a mental health day. Like some days I just can't. And that's okay. It doesn't make me
Yeah.
any less spiritual as it did yesterday. My guides aren't
Mm-hmm.
mad at me. My team's not mad at me. Most of the time, your team wants you to slow down. I feel like a lot of times they put roadblocks in your way because you are like not listening to their subtle, like, slow down signs. So sometimes I feel
Mm-hmm.
like they push us into our human moments.
Yeah, exactly. Or like even your higher self might be doing it too, where it's
Yeah.
like, like, oh, you're not listening to the subtle things. Like, here's a life
Yeah.
contract moment to like really derail your life. So you really listen. I've had
Yes.
so many of those. Because even the last
Yes.
card reading you did for me, you were like, they're being really like not aggressive, but like harsh, like very
Yeah.
like no, there's no more
Your
message. That's the message.
your guides were very like they took me up, they gave me the message, and they spit me out. Like I
Yeah.
said, yeah.
And that's
I
how
don't
I
know
need
how
to
else to
get them a lot of
detail.
the time. Yeah, is I'm like, yeah, like I'm good at listening for other people. But when it comes to my own guidance, I'm like, but we could just talk myself in circles out of this and like not have to do the work or not have to listen. And it never goes well. So,
And it was so funny because you were the first person I ever really like journeyed for and read for. And it was like you. So I was like, I have to like, this has to be good. Cause I know you have like no judgments at all, but like I respect, love, and admire you so much that I wanted to give
and
you a
I do
healing
to you
message
too. Yeah.
because no, because of how much you've helped me. I really wanted to help you as well. And when they were so direct, quick, and short, I was like, is this right? And I was like so nervous to give you the message. And as soon as I said it, you were like, that's them. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Cause like that's how they have to be with me a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Because
Cause like, even though I knew I was connecting, I was still like so nervous to give you the message because I have a very strong faith in that, you know, I'm connecting with who I'm asked to connect to. But it was just so funny. I was like, wow, that was quick. That was
yeah.
direct.
And I think too, that's like a bit of a rite of passage too for like the first reading you do, or like, you know, it's hard to start any kind of business, but like especially like a spiritual based one is like
Yeah.
a lot of imposter syndrome comes up. So
Oh
like,
yes. Oh yeah. And
yeah.
journeyed
Oh,
and
go
read
ahead.
for I've journeyed and read for a few people now. Um, just like just as like, you know, practice just to, you know, maybe help me feel a little bit better about the imposter syndrome and things like that. And they've all been really wonderful. I've been able to give people some really great messages. And like in the moment, it's really great. But then when like a couple of days later, they're like, oh my God, like this showed up, or oh, by the way, this resonated. Because sometimes like I've learned the messages that we're getting, you don't always need to understand them in the moment. And that's also part of trusting and giving these messages that even if I don't understand them, or even if you know the person you're reading for doesn't understand them in the moment, they will when they're supposed to, when they're meant to. So yeah, it's been so much fun. Like I love journeying for people and I love reading for people.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I'm so excited for you. Like it's such a beautiful new chapter you're starting in your practice and in your
Yeah,
life. And
it makes me
yeah.
like so happy because I just like I look at like myself like 2 years ago and the idea of like something other than this is so far out there. And like I used to be so afraid of the spirit world and like scary movies, and now I'm like I gotta go like meditate. Like if my fiance says, do you want to watch a movie, I'm like I gotta go talk to my guides, like I'll talk to you later. Like I'm always like like talking to the spirit world now. And I'm actually taking a couple mediumship courses. I'm in my like my third mediumship course. So yeah, it's whenever I read for somebody, it's almost like healing for me that like I've moved through such a hard traumatic part of my life. So I think reading for people for me is, I don't want to say, how do I say this? It's just like, yeah, it's like healing for me. It's like I'm so grateful that I get to do this for somebody else, but I'm also so proud of me and so grateful to me that like I was brave enough to trust that there was something else and to dive into, you know, my spirituality.
Yeah. And I think too, like, there's so many people in the world that need healing. Like, there's so many people that need messages. There's so many people that don't quite have the confidence to do it for themselves yet. That, like, you just being brave enough to put your neck out there a bit and try is gonna
Yeah.
like have these like beautiful rippling effects out into the collective, out into the universe, where like no one person can help everyone, right? Like,
Right.
and so like you being like, I'm stepping up, I'm gonna do it, like so exciting. I love it. I feel like we need more of it in the world. So I'm like, I just want to like celebrate that for you because I feel like
Thank you.
it's, yeah, it's amazing. I'm so excited. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I really did like, I know I just said it, but I feel like I can say it better. Whenever I read for somebody else, like, I don't want to like past me is like, I can't explain it. Reading for me is like I just said, it's like healing. It's, I don't know, I can't explain what it does and what it means to me for how afraid I used to be, I guess.
hmm I think that's beautiful because I think a lot of the time when we question like why we go through challenges or why we go through suffering and stuff, like it seems pointless. But when you get to the other side of it, like you've gotten to the other side of that deep, deep, deep fear and that paralyzing
Yeah.
anxiety. Now that you've transcended through that, you've alchemized it, you've embraced
Yes,
the opposite
exactly.
of that, which is empowerment and knowledge and asking for answers and receiving them. It's like you probably appreciate it on a deeper emotional level and a deeper,
Yes,
probably spiritual level.
exactly.
Because it's not like you
Yes.
just like had a normal, great, like chill life and then you're like, oh, I'm gonna pick up some oracle cards one day. Like that's cool. Right?
Right. It was like I have, yeah, it's definitely like said it perfectly. It's almost like
Mhm.
therapy for me now. Like my therapy went from like talking to somebody else and doing these little bits of homework and like watching 5 minutes of this terrifying show about ice cats. And now I'm able to sit in a space with something outside of myself and be completely at home. So yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. And like I wouldn't wish some of the things I've gone through on other people, but like being able to be on the other side of it, I'm like, oh, like I get it now. Like
Hmm.
kind of it's like a low key responsibility. It's not like blaming me for what happened. It's not to blame people who've been through hard things, but this like idea of, okay, I understand dark, so I understand light. I understand short, so I can understand tall. It's like that
Yes.
was your like
Yes.
pre spiritual awakening vibe and post spiritual awakening. It's like, I think it just hits so much deeper.
Definitely, definitely does. And I didn't like actually, I think everybody can relate to as soon as you get on like spiritual TikTok, you see all the tarot cards. I was like, I need to go get a tarot deck. And as much as I wanted to read tarot, it never resonated with me. But I always loved oracle cards. Like they felt great in my hands. I felt great shuffling. I felt great reading them. And then I would go back to the tarot cards and then they would fly out and I knew the meanings and I was just like, I don't know. Tarot just didn't do it for me. And then you and I had a session and you had saw one of my past lives, a few of them that I was an oracle. And I was like, oh, like that makes so much more sense now why I feel so connected to these oracle cards. So yeah, I didn't just like pick up an oracle deck. I was like, I'm gonna start reading for people. I tried other things and I just kept getting pulled back to them. And then I unpacked this whole past life and I feel
Yeah.
like I'm right where I'm supposed to be.
I love that. Because I think that past life you were in Delphi, was that the Greek temple? Was that one of
There was
them?
that one, and then I was in Egypt. I was one.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So like lots of mystery school stuff. So it's like probably there's a
yeah,
piece of me that was just like, come on, let's wake up already. Like I'm
yeah,
who I truly am kind of a thing and express that. Yeah.
yeah. Like every time I
Yeah.
picked up oracle cards, I was probably like, "Come on!" Like
Yeah, like the
Daphne was
word
like, "Stop."
oracles
Yeah,
screaming at you almost. I love that. And like
yeah,
I can read tarot, but I don't offer it as like a thing on my website services because I'm like, I
right,
think there's better tarot card readers out there. Like kind of like how it
right,
doesn't resonate as much with you. Like I could do it. I have done it for my friends and family and for myself, but I'm like, it's not my zone of genius. So I love that you're leaning into your zone of genius because I
yeah,
think that's like the medicine we can bring the world. It's like we don't have to be everything to everyone. It's like we can find what really resonates deeply for us and be like, here, universe, here, world, here,
yes,
collective, here, new client. I have this for
yeah,
you if you'd like.
yep,
Yeah.
exactly, and that's exactly what journeying and then oracle reading is for me.
Yeah, because it's interesting because we have a very similar practice. I mean, partially because you took my courses. I think partially we just resonate on a similar like soul level kind of a thing. Like we both
Yeah.
got on really well. But like our offerings are so different, right? So
Hmm.
I think it just goes to show like if you're listening today and you're like thinking of starting your own thing, whether it's in the spiritual realm or like, I don't know, like a frozen yogurt stand or like a, I don't know, like tent store for camping. I don't like whatever like you're interested in. It's like just because someone else is doing something similar or even the exact same thing doesn't mean that they're you. Like there's always room at the
Right.
table, I think. I think there's always room to like make your own dreams and desires come true because I can't see all the clients. So, and you're going to offer something very different. And like, I love going to you for a reading because I'm like, like, I'm so bad at listening to my guides. Like, Nina should just tell me what they said. This is so much easier to listen to Nina than to listen to them, kind of a thing.
Yeah, and same, like I can definitely talk to my guides now and um but it's still not the same. Like the sessions I have with, like, if I have a conversation with my guide, like, don't get me wrong, I still feel very loved and I feel like refreshed. But when I have like the sessions with you, every session with you is like stepping out of old skin and like starting new. Like it's just so different. And like even though I could do it for myself, it's just like you said, having somebody else sometimes do the work and the healing for you is so refreshing.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the time when we talk about healing, like we've been kind of programmed through life of this, like, you know, you have to go to therapy for the rest of your life, or you have to like always be like dealing with your trauma, or you have to always, I don't know, like watch what you say or whatever the
Yeah.
thing is. It's like, what if it was easier than that? You know?
Yeah.
And sometimes having someone else hold the space for you and go look at your past lives or go ask for what you're stuck on, it's like just the easiest route to it. Like you could do it, but I'm like, work hard, work smarter, not harder, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I
I
love
love
getting
that.
readings with you.
Me too. Yeah. And I'm just so excited for you to like blossom into this amazing business owner and everything too. It's like
Me too. I'm
very
so
exciting.
excited.
Yeah. Yeah. So like with that, how's it been for you kind of putting yourself out there? Has it been
It's definitely it's definitely a little scary since I'm still coming to terms with like just being authentic with who I am now. I'm not the same person I was a year ago. And I have a lot of people at work and friends and family and like you know, them now seeing who I am now that I'm fully embracing it. Especially since one of the last readings you and I had, you had told me there was like a little clan of witches in my little soul contract. We had signed a contract together that they wouldn't cross over until I fully stepped into my authentic power. And they've really helped me, I feel like, step into that. But it's still a little scary, like, you know, because not these things aren't really well received. But I'll just be at work right now and I'll do something. And like the other day at work, I kept being told to like test this dog for Lyme disease. And I was like, I need to test him, like, for whatever. I was like, somebody's telling me to test it. And the girls at work were like, this is such a waste. If you're going to, you know, pull the dog's blood, but like, let's just see what happens. And he wasn't positive for Lyme, but he was positive for another tick-borne disease because he looked really like painful. And I kept hearing like, test them for like over a week. And I was like, I just got to do it. So they were like, you know, how do you know? I was like, my spirit guides told me. And so it's so funny to like really bring that into my life and truly just embrace it. And it's definitely scary. And then I think when you start charging people for things, that's also very scary.
mm,
Um, but you know, you have to navigate that as best as you can. And there was actually a guy at work who asked me, he said, oh, I hear like you do card readings. How much do you charge? And even though I have a link up, I have a website up, I told him I didn't know and that I wasn't available yet because I was so nervous to be like, well, this is what I charge. And I would love to give you a reading. It's so scary.
mm,
And I think that that's something that I'm still working through. I do have a link up and I would love to give readings to people. Um, but I think like the people in my immediate life, it's very scary to be like, here, I'm going to charge you for this now.
yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, that is hard. Like, it's definitely hard to charge people that you know, like full price, especially. Like, I go through that sometimes too. And it's been a process to just like learn to listen and see who I should discount, who I should give free work to, and who I need to kind of hold strong with, kind of a thing. Cause
Yeah. So
yeah,
I was able to explain, like, he wanted me to tell him his future. And I explained to him, like, I don't do that. Like, I have no desire to tell someone their future. I don't even think I could if I tried. My readings are really like I just asked your guide how you can move through your life currently or where to focus your energy and things of that nature. Like, I don't want to tell anybody their future because I feel like we have so many potential timelines. Like, I could tell you something today and tomorrow it could be something different. So
mhm,
I really just want to bring people healing guidance and spiritual guidance, stuff like that.
yeah. And I think that's honestly how you really actually tell the future and create the future
Yeah.
is like whatever we're talking about right now is creating the next moment for us. So like if I were to sit here and be like, you suck, you're this, like being rude to you, like, and you took that on, not that I take
Yeah.
that at all, of course, but like, you know, it's like if you took something like that on, your next moment, your next day would probably be yucky, right?
Not
Like you
good.
probably wouldn't
Yeah.
feel great, right? So it's like, how often are we obsessed with the past and the things that happened to us in the past, and we're constantly thinking about it in the present, and then we just see more of that in our life?
Yeah.
It's like, I love that you're more like, okay, here's the medicine. Like
Yeah.
here's what your guides want you to know so that you can step out of this. You keep telling yourself the same thing and keep digging your heels into the same pattern and the same thinking. Because yes, it did happen, but do you want it to continue to happen? Or do you want to sidestep that, take a new perspective, integrate what your guides
Yeah.
are telling you, and then open up all these new possibilities and all these new blessings that wouldn't have been possible before, I think.
Yeah. And I think maybe the reason I also set that up is because that's kind of how like my journey went, like my awakening and my healing went with like learning different things from different people like you and other readers and influencers of how to move through whatever you're feeling or whatever your fears are, your trauma and things like that. And it was so life changing for me. And that's what I want to do for other people. I don't want to tell you what your future is going to be or what it could be. I want to tell you how great you can be through this painful process, or where, you know, you need to focus your energy right now and things like that. Or
Yeah.
little messages that your guides have. Like if you don't want to focus, if you don't have any pain, you feel like you want to move through, they might still have a little message for you.
Yeah,
And I
definitely.
love, my favorite part is being able to tell somebody what animal guide is there for them. That's like my, just, I love that part. I
Yeah,
get
because you
always
connect with
so
animals
excited.
so well. Yeah. Yeah.
I do. I actually journeyed for somebody, and a hawk took me up, and I was like, okay, this is new. And then it didn't say anything. It just, helped me connect. And then I pulled, I do my readings, and at the end I pull a card from my animal oracle deck, and the hawk flew out, and it said like, let spirit be your guide, or co-create with spirit. And I was like, oh, it makes sense. So like I didn't even know the whole journey why this hawk came. Um, but yeah, I feel very strongly when I go to the animal world and connect people with their spirit animal or their animal guide.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Oh, so
It's
cute.
my
And
favorite.
like even just like listening to that guidance about like test for the tick, or like test for the Lyme disease,
Yeah.
like it's like I think that you have a really strong connection, and it's cool to see you like not only incorporate that in your kind of like muggle day job of helping
Yeah.
all those animals. It's like now you can bring that into kind of your spiritual side and help other people connect to that as
Yeah.
well.
I've learned, I did this practice where I just like for a week was like, whatever I feel like I should do, I'm going to do, and see how many positives happen versus negatives. And I just learned to really start to listen to my intuition.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I 110% agree with that. Yeah.
Which is so funny because like 2 years ago, I wouldn't have known what the heck to do.
hmm Yeah. Yeah. Because even on my kind of spiritual journey, like I was so skeptical my whole life, but like every time I
Yeah.
ignored my intuition, horrible things would happen. And time again, I'm like, oh, I need to just listen when I'm
Yeah.
told.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I love that you're connecting to that and kind of leaning into that. And it sounds like you're getting less of the horrible things that I seem to manifest for myself.
It's so funny. Yeah, because I didn't connect to my intuition until like your intuition boot camp. And it's so funny that like you don't listen to your intuition as much as like you should, but or that you teach. And yeah, I took your intuition boot camp, and everything like resonated so much with me. Um and so I use the checking in with your body thing all the time. Like the other day I
Mm,
was picking out watermelon, and my fiance's looking at me, and I'm like
I
deciding what
love
watermelon I
that.
want. And he's like, what is she doing? Like he learned to stop asking questions, but it's just funny. Um, so yeah, and then I went from intuition boot camp to meet your spirit guides course. And yeah, I think you've taught me, I think you're a great teacher, because definitely took everything you said and just ran with it. And
Oh.
only good things have happened.
And honestly, like, I'd love to be able to take credit for that. And like, I appreciate that's such a sweet compliment, but like, a lot of it's you, right? Like, it's like, I always say I don't teach people stuff. I always say that I remind them of who they are. So it's like, I love that you've taken it and made it your own and run with it. Cause I'm like, that's why I do what I do. Like, it's like, yeah. So yeah, if anyone's
Yeah.
thinking about joining, I'd love to have you in them. They're both open for enrollment right now, but
Yes, you will
yeah,
not regret it.
yeah. But if it resonates or not resonates, whatever works, listen to your intuition about joining Intuition Bootcamp. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny how much easier life gets when you tune into that, right? Like it's like you're talking about getting the signs, the purple owl, all that. It's like,
Yeah.
do you
And
feel
like I
like your
said,
life? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Just do you feel like your life has gotten easier in the last year? Like,
I do. I feel not, I wouldn't say my life has gotten easier. I feel like I have grown and I have learned so many lessons in such a short amount of time. And I think that that's what's made my life a bit easier is the spiritual aspect. And when things get really hard or somebody's really triggering me, it takes a lot of, I want to say, journaling and a lot of like really to have faith in your spiritual practice to look at that person and just be like, okay, what are you trying to teach me? And I have these moments where I don't want to talk to this person or this, so and so's really getting on my nerves. But I have my human moments, and then I'm like, okay, well, like, what are they trying to teach you? And then I got to do the yucky stuff and do the journaling and the shadow work and the things that, like, in the moment feel really yucky, but that's what helps you move through it. And I do feel that life has gotten. I started to look at my life as like a game, and it's like more fun when I'm like, okay, this is just a challenge, and I need to level up after it. Or like I've been explaining to people a lot lately, like when good things happen. Like somebody gave me a banana the other day, and I was like, how when you're in a video game and you're just like, your life bar is like at the end, but then you see like first aid kit, you pick it up and it like fills up. Like those little like things. That's what like every time something cute happens, or like someone gave me their banana, and I was like, that was so sweet. I literally envision like my energy bubble going up, or if somebody's triggering me, I'm like, okay, I'll journal about this later. So I do feel like the growth has helped my life be more fun and more free flowing. Um, Whereas a couple years ago, some of the things I went through this year, I probably would still not be at my job. I might not be with my fiance. I don't think people really talk about going through a spiritual awakening with somebody who is not spiritual.
mm,
That can definitely test your relationship. But luckily, I have a fiance who he would support me if I don't know, anything I wanted to do. He would be like, whatever makes you happy. As long as I don't try to make him do any of it.
which is in its own way like super woke and spiritual to be like, whatever makes you happy, like you're on your own
Oh
path. It's
yeah.
not my path, but like I'm holding space. I unconditionally love you. Like,
Yeah, like
yeah,
you did a session for both of us, and I told him, I was like, she's gonna tell us about our past lives, and she's gonna do ancestral healing and all this stuff. And he was like, just tell me what time. And like he sat through the whole thing, like he doesn't believe anything, but he sat through the whole video with us. And he'll make jokes about the sessions, but it's just so funny now. He like knows you by name, and I'm like, I have a session with Leon, and he'll be like, okay, I'll see you in 5 hours, because he knows that like we could talk forever.
we could talk forever. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love
But yeah,
that.
I definitely think life has gotten more fun, free flowing, and yeah, I
I love
definitely
that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
feel no, I love to talk. I just feel really grateful for the spiritual
Yeah,
awakening, and if I put this in my soul contract, I'm so proud of me.
me too. Yeah. And I love that idea of it being like a video game because I feel like it helps us take things like not quite as seriously. Where it's like, yes, you have to go through the challenge to go to the next level
Yeah,
and things like that. But I think it really is kind of like a video game or like a
yeah,
cosmic melodrama sometimes. Like, I think that's why I'm obsessed with The Real Housewives, is because I'm like, not only is it like escapism, like after a really serious day of like dealing with past lives and stuff, if they're like yelling at each other over like what glass they serve wine in. I'm like, oh, I love this. But on a soul level, I'm like, I incarnated into a meat suit to sit here and watch middle-aged rich women yell at each other. And it's just so funny that I feel like it's like some cosmic joke almost. It's like I'm
Yeah.
so obsessed with like the 3D reality. I incarnated to the 3D reality to like watch these things happen. And I think the video game thing is very similar, where it's like, yeah, we came here to level up. So like full life from that banana, like going through your day,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah, that is like literally what goes on in my head. And don't get me wrong, some days there's no video games. Sometimes this day sucks and it's shitty, but
mhm.
it is more fun when you view it, when you have the emotional and mental capacity to be able to view it as a video game. And lucky for me, I most of my days are like that. But I
Mhm.
think it's because I also do the work. Because
Yeah,
spirituality is not just you wake up and you're spiritual. There's a lot goes into it.
yeah. And I think it's okay too to like take it step by step, and
Oh
like
yeah.
your work is going to look different than other people's work, but like I think it'd be boring if it was easy. Like if you just opened
Oh
your eyes
yeah.
and you were like, I know all the cosmic secrets of the universe, like it'd be kind of like you just ascend like that.
Yeah,
That
you'd
would
be
be
so
it.
bored. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
And so
I
I
would
think
say
that's why.
in the beginning, I tried to do too much. Like I said, I bought
Hmm.
1,000 books. I bought like every crystal I could find. I was like, I bought every color candle. I did so many things, and then like my practice at one point looked like I would wake up, I would meditate, I would journal, I would do a card reading, I would work out. Well, I have to be at work at 6 a.m. I live 45 minutes away. So I would be waking up at like 3 a.m. to do this whole morning ritual. And I could just, my guides are like, you're doing too much. Like, you don't need to do all this. Like, space it out. Or like, maybe you don't journal every single morning. Or like, maybe you work out after work. Or like, I thought it had to look a certain way. And now I know that my spirituality could literally be, if there's a full moon and I don't have a ritual plan, I don't need a ritual to get the healing from the full moon. Like I could literally be in bed and that's my magic and that's okay. And that's my spiritual practice for the day. That's how I'm going to honor myself on the full moon. It doesn't have to look a certain way. And that is my favorite thing probably about, I guess, well, not my favorite thing, but one of my favorite things about spirituality is it doesn't have to look like everybody else's. And it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be this whole elaborate thing.
Right? It's like literally you could be cooking food and be like, okay, I'm going to infuse love and an intention into like this meal I'm
Yeah.
making. It's like I have to eat anyways, may as well just like beam some love into that and set the intention this is going to nourish my body and my body can process it easily. I'm going to go enjoy that food because I have to eat because I have a busy day. I have to be up tomorrow at 6 a.m. or.
Yeah. That's what, what? It's funny you say that because like I'm like spiritual on the go. Like I'll wake up and as my coffee's like brewing, I'll play frequencies right next to it and be like, okay, this is gonna charge my coffee because I can't sit down and talk to it right now. Like I have to be at work for 45 minutes. The sun hasn't even come up. I have to take care of my dogs. I gotta do this, I gotta do that. So while I'm doing all that, I just hit play and my coffee gets charged. I put a little like moon water in there and like that's my charge, my coffee for the day. I
I
let it
love
listen to
that.
healing frequencies because like I remember at one point I would like take my coffee upstairs, I would like talk to it, I would like meditate with it, and then like I don't have time for all this. It's beautiful, but I don't have time for it. So it doesn't have
Yeah.
to look the certain doesn't have to look like everybody else's, and it doesn't have to be so extravagant.
Yeah. It's like just making it easy. I feel like it shouldn't feel like a chore. Like
Exactly.
spirituality shouldn't feel like a chore. So if you're tired, rest. That's
Yeah.
spiritual. If you're
Yeah.
hungry, eat. That is spiritual. If you're not hungry because you just meditated and went to another galaxy and you're like, whoa, don't eat in that moment. Like it's
Right.
okay to be at a different place than you were yesterday. And I love that idea of you just being like, okay, we're charging this. We're going to go upstairs, brush our
Yeah.
teeth, get ready, do. But like I'm looking at right now my love bottle where I have a bottle with love and abundance and success written all over it. And I usually store my water for my coffee in that overnight. And then I just make my coffee with that in the morning where it's like I just fill it every night. And I'm like, I don't need to sit there and like you said, like meditate because I don't have the patience for that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
just gonna pour like let this like cook overnight with the love and abundance and success and then
Yeah.
drink that in the morning.
And like my fiance just like set up his little corner in his room. He's like trying to do something with his computer and make a little extra money. So I just the last time he came to a holistic store with me, and he actually bought himself a couple crystals because they were dinosaur shaped, which I thought was really cute. So I cleansed them and I charged them. And while I was cleaning today and all that, I put a little cinnamon stick and like his little dinosaurs, a little citrine, and like I could like sit there and like focus on it, but like I know that my intention behind it was powerful enough. Like it doesn't have to be like a whole thing. So
I love
yeah,
that. My
just
intention behind it is powerful enough. That's
yeah.
really what it all boils down to, I think.
And I also feel like those little crystals are a little extra more powerful because like he picked them out and like we had the whole day together and like he saw them and he was like, oh, dinosaur crystals? And he was like, what does this one do? What does this one do? And so like I think even his intention and his love behind picking those out will also enhance the properties of those. I feel
Hmm.
like sometimes we underestimate ourselves, like the power that we have within. Like sometimes it really doesn't have to be all that. Like I said,
Yeah.
your intention is enough.
Yeah. It's like if you can't talk out loud to your spirit guides, like talk in your head. Like they'll pick it up. Like
Hmm.
if you don't have time to do a whole ritual, like literally just taking a moment and being like, I accept this and I receive it after setting an intention can be all that you need to
Yeah.
shift things. Like, yeah, it's like, I love that. It doesn't have to be
I
complicated.
I feel that very, very strongly that it's, well, I guess, I mean, for me, like the simpler, the better. Because my life, like my job is so hectic and so emotionally draining that most of my emotions and energy goes to this work. So I think when it comes time to like my spiritual stuff, I almost feel like my guides are like, we got you. Like your intention is enough. We know what you need and what you want and the love you put behind all these things. And I actually think that's how it is for everybody. Like,
Hmm.
your guides got you. Your team, your higher self, it's all okay.
Yeah. And they know like the nuanced details of your life. Like it's like you don't have to justify or explain yourself to them because they know. Like they know every little like decision you've made
Yeah.
and why you made it and why you did the things you did, good, bad, in between. And
Hmm.
they just love you. Like they got
Oh,
you.
also, this is what I love. The other day at work, I was doing something and a big box fell and it like hit me in the head. And like when things like that happen, like I don't know if you ever seen the Cardi B meme where she was like, "What was the reason?" She's like screaming it. When things like that happen to me, I'll look up and be like, "What was the reason? Like, what were you teaching me?" Or and it's just funny, like when if I stub my toe or just like weird things like that. I'm like, now why? Why did that happen? And it makes life more fun because like the last thing I needed in that moment was a box to hit me in the head. But it could have either really ruined my day or I could have just been like, well, that wasn't very nice, but I'll slow down. Like,
Mm.
so I try to be like, that had to happen for a reason.
Yeah, actually, yesterday our day just like did not work out very well at all. And I'm like, I should look into more the reasoning of that. It's like I was fine, but my family, like everything kind of went wrong. Like forgetting
Mm.
the gift at home, having to go back like half an hour to grab the thing, accidentally parking far away from this park, like all this stuff where it was like it took my brother like 2 extra hours to meet up
Oh
with us.
no.
And I was just like, do, 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 do. But I could tell it was like we were almost getting stressed as a family, and then it would like simmer down, and we were like almost getting stressed. And I'm like, I wonder if that's more about them and their space or like something
Right.
I'm attracting. And I'm like, yeah,
Mm.
it's interesting looking into those moments of like not quite in the flow and being like, what
Yeah.
is the lesson here? I think, yeah, like 2 years ago, we probably would have gotten cranky and like bitten each other's head off a bit and like kind of gotten a bit of a family spat. And we just had a really nice day in spite of it all. So like maybe that's the
Yeah.
lesson in there, you know?
I
Yeah.
also really love, I don't know if you've ever read The Untethered Soul, but in that book, he says we are just on a floating rock, like hurling through space. And sometimes at work, in my most stressful moments, I work with animals and animals are victims of cruelty. So I'm always doing my hardest and fastest and best to take care of them. But sometimes I have to step back and be like, we're just in space and like take myself
Mhm.
out of this human experience for just a second. And it's also
Yeah.
helped a lot of the girls I work with. Like sometimes they'll like walk in and be like, we're just in space. We're just floating through space. And I'm like, yeah, like it's okay. Take a second. Like we'll get back into our flow. Like sometimes you just need to remember that like it's not all serious
It's
all the time.
right. I used to actually do something similar when I worked in a breakfast restaurant. I'd be like, it's just eggs. Like if someone was like yelling at you
Yeah.
or like making you so or like making a staff member cry, I'd be like, it's just eggs. Like it's just eggs. And my boss did not love that all the time because she's like, it's my business, it's my baby. But I'm like, really, if you take a step back, like we're not like solving world hunger here. We're
Right.
not like rocket scientists or like surgeons. Like literally, if we mess it up, it is an egg. I'll go get you a new egg. Sorry for the wait. Like that's it. We're just
Yeah.
hurling through space with our eggs. Like yeah. So I love that idea of just like taking a moment, getting things into perspective. And it's so cute that it's like influencing maybe the less kind of spiritually awakened people around you where they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, we are just hurling through space. Like I can take a moment. I can take a sip of water. I can like
Yeah, and
breathe.
one of the girls actually sometimes she'll come in and be like, "Can you do your universe thing today?" If she doesn't want like a bad day. And I think it's so cute that like, they start to like really accept it, and they're like, "I know you like." They think I'm like woo woo, but they're like, "Can you just do it just in case it works?" Or like my fiance will be like, "Who do you think's gonna win the game tonight?" And like he never listens to me. Like he just bet on the Sixers game last night. He bet something, I bet something else, and I won. I also won on the Super Bowl. Like I just kind of go with like these inklings, and it's just funny that sometimes they'll be like, "So what do you think?"
He's like, good, I'll do the exact opposite. Cool.
Yeah.
I love that. That just goes to show though, like not everyone's always ready. Like
Yeah.
it's like you're in the flow, you might get the better intuitive nudges kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so sweet. It's funny though, because I'm so bad at that kind of a thing. Like I'm definitely more of like a healer than like a predictor. Like it's like,
Yeah. Normally when I
yeah.
do it, he'll let me like pick his lineup for fun. Like I'll be like, whatever you're doing, can I practice? Like I usually don't just pick it. Like I won't be like, tell me who's gonna win. I'll use the like forward backward. Should I choose this person? And or I'll be
Mhm.
like, should I bet on this? And like it's not always right, but it's funny when it is, especially when he goes against me. Because then it just
That's
makes me feel a little bit more like it gives me a little bit more confidence.
mhm. Yeah. Oh, I love that because usually your body does know. Like, even I went to go do an astrology reading and I wasn't sure if I was born at like 8:15 or 8:20 in the morning and they muscle tested
Oh,
me for it and like my body knew the
that's
exact time,
amazing.
right? So it's like if you're one of those people that maybe doesn't know their rising sign because they don't know their birth time, if you know like the ballpark of when you were born, like researching some muscle testing, I can link that down below actually for the episode, but like someone can either push on your arm and if you're strong against it, it's like the truth. But if it's like you're weak, it's usually not the truth kind of a thing. Um,
You know what? You should link it. I have a friend of mine who is very spiritual at work, and she doesn't know what time she was born. But we were both born on the same day, and we have like same family dynamics. Like I feel like we're like soul sisters. And I would love to know when she was born. So if you link
yeah.
that down below, I could try that with her.
Yeah. Cause yeah, literally like you would just get her to stand hip width apart, get comfortable, and she would need to hold her arm out. And then you would just push down on it. And she needs to resist it enough that like you're not just like pushing her down, but not like
Right.
she's resisting so much. Like if she's stronger than you, she's gonna like, really, really resist and like not budge at all. So like a strong resistance without being impenetrable. And then you would just say out loud to her, like 8 in the morning. And if she goes like weak, it's not true. Like 8:15 in the morning. And whatever's like true will be like strong against you kind of a thing. And everything else
Right.
should be like weak. Um, this isn't like a surefire allergy tester, but like I have seen people use this for like food intolerances. Like if they're thinking of
Yeah.
cutting out gluten, like holding a bag of flour in one hand and putting your arm out and getting someone to muscle test you, it'll usually be weak if you're kind of intolerant to it. So like
That's
obviously
so
with like
cool.
right? Yeah. So with allergies, like I'm not a doctor. Please go to your doctor for things. Like don't just go off that. If you know you're allergic to shellfish, like don't test it with that. But it's kind of a cool way to be like, maybe I should eat less eggs, or maybe I should eat less flour, or like maybe I'd feel better on a vegan diet or a non-vegan diet or whatever, you can even just have someone speak out loud to you and you can muscle test that way.
Yeah.
And the other way is what you were talking about before of like putting your feet hip width apart and letting your weight kind of balance in between the ball and the heel of your foot. And then picking something like your watermelon up and being like, is this the one I should buy? And if you go forwards a little bit, don't fall on your face, of course. But if you stumble forwards a little bit, it tends to be yes. If you stumble backwards a little bit, it tends to be no. And that helps me decide all sorts of things. And it's usually more true than whatever my brain would come up with. Like if you're struggling to channel, it's like a really quick way to check in with like your true deep intuition versus like what your brain is telling you should think.
Yeah. I think I'm just thinking about this now because we were just talking about astrology, but one of my favorite parts of my spiritual awakening, and I always like a lot of the times when things happen, I know soul contract things are really like big things, but sometimes I feel like I put like little like almost little breadcrumbs in there for myself. Is that real?
That's totally real. It's just like usually in a reading, it doesn't come up for the first few readings because like most people don't want the breadcrumbs in like a I paid $200 for the session moment. But totally, it's like I feel like even just sometimes like a really delicious meal I eat, if I like deeply remember it and I was like, dang, that was good. Like there's some moments I've had traveling where I'm like, this was the best coffee I've ever had, or like the best tiramisu or something. I like hold on to that and I'm like, I feel like that was destiny.
Yeah. So funny enough, my mom, my whole life, she told me I was born at like 4:15 in the afternoon. And so once I got into spirituality, I stumbled down the astrology hole and I looked up my rising and all that at 4:15. So for a while, I was like going by the stars, which was not for me because that's not when I was born. When I found my birth certificate, on my birth certificate, I was born at 2:22 in the afternoon. And
and you're all about the angel numbers,
right? So when I saw that, I called my mom and I was like, "You liar!" And she was like, "Oh, I tried." And like, she doesn't remember anything. That's fine. But like, I feel like that's just like something I put in my contract for me because like I can't tell you the power and the confidence and like the hug I felt from like the universe when I saw that.
And I do believe that
so special.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, you are. Yeah, but I do feel like our exact birth time is actually written into our life contracts most of the time. Like whether it's
it has to be. I would definitely do that to like that's what I mean. Like when I saw that, I was like, oh, I did this.
Yeah. And it's what a cool synchronicity because you're such an angel numbers person. And then, like
especially because that's the first angel number I started to see a lot. I'll never forget that when that's like the first like synchronicities I started to see was 222. I saw it everywhere. And so that number is very special to me.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. What a cool. Yes. Because it makes sense. It's like the moment you transition from the spiritual to the physical world, essentially, is the moment you're born. You're leaving like a water encasement and moving into an air world, right? And
yes,
like that's such an imprint where, yes, it doesn't fully affect every decision we make necessarily, but it's kind of like the energy that we have imprinted on us as we go out into the universe and the world. So I'm like, I think it makes sense that we choose that, like because my Scorpio friends are like very different than my Virgo friends, who are very different than my Sagittarius friends.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I think a lot of it can be your strength and your downfalls. And it doesn't mean your astrology chart like rules over your entire life, but it makes sense that like on a soul level, we know what that means. And we're like, I think would help me in this lifetime, being born at 222 on this day, being a this rising, being a that sun, like, yeah,
for sure.
So, I love that. What a cool breadcrumb to leave yourself for like later.
I know.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, well, we're getting close to our like hour and a half mark, so I don't want to keep you too long, but do you have anything that you want to kind of share as kind of like closing thoughts? Like, we'll link all your socials, your Firefly vibing on TikTok and Instagram and everything. So if you want to follow Nina and get a reading, highly recommend. But yeah, is there anything that like you wish you knew when you were awakening, or you just like wish you knew earlier, or like anything that you has made your journey easier that you'd want to share?
I wish I would have trusted myself. Like I think having a relationship with your spiritual self and listening to your spiritual self and your intuition, I wish I would have trusted that like from the gate. Because there is a lot of information and a lot of research and a lot of opinions and practices. And I don't disagree with closed practices. Like I think you should respect, practices and things of that nature. But I think you should just listen to what feels good for you and what resonates with you in like all areas of your life. So I definitely wish I would have just trusted myself more and knowing which information to chew on and which to let like go by the wayside.
Yeah. And I think too, like in terms of putting that into practice, what really helped me was like anything that feels like love or anything that feels like freedom or empowerment or peace is usually my intuition. It's usually for me.
Yeah.
And then like anything that feels like anxiety or like, like second guessing, fear, just yuck. A lot of that is like not for me. And
right. Like I think definitely respect practices and I would say do your research, because there's a lot of things going on that say like this is this and that is that. But like do your research and find out for sure, and then see what, if it's not a closed practice or it does resonate with you in that case, then listen to yourself about with all the research that's going on. Because especially when you're so, like for me, I was so afraid of everything and I still wasn't fully like in my spirituality yet. I was just like dipping my toe and I was so scared. Like when I started to like watch deity videos, I was like, whoa, like that started to scare me. Like a lot of people are saying, this deity is mad at them today because they didn't do that. I was like, I'm never working with anybody, or because it was like some are very scary, but I work with Hecate now and I find her to be nothing but loving. And so I think you should just trust yourself and like you said, if it feels loving, go with it. If it doesn't, it's okay to walk away. Oh, and something you taught me, it's okay to return people's energy back to them. And I took that and also ran with it. Like it's okay to just be like, that's yours and not mine.
And it's like with love, it's like I love you so much. I'm not gonna be a sponge and I'm gonna make sure you get what you need to work on, or like what you need to absorb back in. And it's like so like, much love, but not mine.
Yes, like I'll be like, okay, was this person trying to teach me something, or am I supposed to push this back to them to teach them something? And like I try to like, dismantle this like puzzle, and I'll take what's mine and then return back what's theirs. Because like you said, like you're just doing them a disservice if you're just taking all their yuck and give back with love.
Or even too much of a good thing sometimes. Like if you let your friends praise you too much when you're like starting something new, it can sometimes derail you, where if you don't get that praise in the future, it's like, oh my gosh, am I still a good card reader? Am I still a good practitioner? Am I still a good? And it's like, it's nice to like hear the compliments and hold space for that. But like too much of like good energy sometimes can get you off balance too, where it's like, well, now if I'm not getting like 5-star reviews every time and people are just saying thank you for the reading and ending it, like, does that mean I did a bad job? And it's like, so it's like, take what they have to say into consideration. But I found really that idea of like, really what's mine is mine really just centers you and grounds you in a way like no other.
Oh, and I'm being like told to talk about this last thing. Having a spiritual ego. In the beginning of my spiritual practice, I definitely developed a spiritual ego. And I made my fiance feel bad a lot in that process. And I got really wrapped up in the 5D, and I was like, you're gonna get left behind and things of that nature. So I think you are no better than anybody else just because you now have a spiritual practice, and you still need to love and hold space and accept people for where they are in their journey. And like, they say like a lot of people say you lose a lot of friends in your spiritual practice and things like that. I do believe you lose people, but when I came out as spiritual to my friends, most of them were like, well, you can practice on me, or well, can you try to connect to this person for me? Like most of them were very loving about it. And like my friend Beth Ann like commented on one of my TikToks and was like, I love you and your spirit guides. And like she doesn't believe, but she supports it. And so I do, you do lose people, but I don't necessarily believe that you lose everyone. Or I got very lucky and have very good friends. But spiritual egos is very real, and keep that in check, because I definitely was not very kind to my fiance in the beginning.
Yeah. And I think we all go through a version of that, you know, it's like, yeah, it's easy to kind of almost get righteous and like, well, I saw
Yeah.
this past life was this person, so how could someone else be that person kind of a thing. Like you can't both be this famous historical whatever. And then, you know, if you keep your mind open, you go ask about it. Well, there's many parallel universes. What if someone was like Cleopatra in one parallel universe that
Right.
looked almost the same as this other one? Like, do you actually have all the answers? Right?
Yeah. And I would like, I was like, you're too negative for me. Like, I need you to do this, this, that, and the third. And like, that is not his truth. That's not his practice. And then we did a past life, and I understood so much of who he is today, kind of from knowing his past life and the things that you said to me. So like, everybody's on their own journey. Just because it's not the same as yours doesn't make you better, make them any less. And you could still have friends, you could still love people. And that was, it didn't last for very long, but it definitely happened to me. And I just like kept hearing to talk about it. So maybe
I
that
love
needed to reach
that.
somebody.
I think it did. Yeah. It reminds me of even like my relationship with my brother when you talk about your fiance, just like that, like kind of stoic, like not quite a believer. And the other day he was Zooming with my parents. I was leaving my parents' house and I was like, I love you. And he said nothing. He like grunted. And, you know, if I was back in my spiritual ego, I'd be like, he's not love and light, like, like, how dare he? And instead, I kind of took a moment and I laughed and I was like, oh, I know my brother so well. And I was like, you know, my brother, I said his name. I was like, the kind of person that can't say I love you, but would give you a kidney if you needed one. And he apparently just like lit up. Like my mom's like, he just looks so seen and like he just got
Aw,
so like sparkly, gooey, like best version of himself because that's who he is, right? It's like he's
right.
not good at saying I love you, but I know he loves me. So when I kind of nailed it right on the head with that comment, he was like, I feel so seen. And now I'm like, that's such a cute memory that I'm going to hold on to that moment instead of judging him for being like, oh, I won't say I love you again. I like kind of was like, I see you where you are and I know who you are. And it's like this deep bonding moment. And now like an inside joke we have where I'm like, you'd give me a
Yeah.
kidney though. Like, let's not manifest
And
that, but you would if I needed one.
yeah, and that's how my fiance is, like very stoic. Like you've seen him, and you know, he's not a big talker. He's like, his love style is avoidant, and like mine's like attachment. It's funny, we're very opposite, and he doesn't really express anything, but I know like if I needed anything, I would never have to ask more than once.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Like, not that we're manifesting this, but like if you were in the
mm-mm.
hospital for something, I can see him just like charging over there and like being there for
Hmm.
you 110% kind of a thing. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, I love
yeah,
that.
he's
So,
great.
yeah. But yeah,
So
if we
those are
were
my final
forcing
words.
them, yeah, if we were forcing them, it just would not be the same kind of love.
Mm,
So, yeah, I love that.
yeah,
Well, thank you for sharing that. That is a
yeah.
beautiful message. Don't let your ego get the best of you, whether it's in spirituality or anything. And yeah, what a beautiful chat we had. I'm so glad we got to do
I
this.
know, me too. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for having me. This was my first
yeah.
podcast and it was a lot of fun.
Well, thank you for spending so much time with me. I'm so appreciative. And I'll make sure I link everything that you can find Nina on down below. Firefly Vibin is
Yes,
her handle on pretty much everything. She's on TikTok. You have Instagram too, right? Instagram.
I I do, yeah.
Okay, but you're more present, I think, on TikTok mostly, right?
Yeah,
For
trying
now?
to just post, yeah, mostly TikTok. I definitely post just more like quotes and stuff on Instagram because I don't have a whole lot of time to like write a big blurb. So it's mostly, here's this post with love.
Yeah, struggle is real. Little pro tip, voice to text sometimes really gets me out of that where I'll just talk into
Ah,
my phone, be like, period. So need an Instagram caption. You'll have to edit it, but it'll be less staring at your
yeah,
phone. You can walk around and do things. Write your
cool.
captions. So yeah. And yeah, if you resonate with Nina's energy, book a reading if you feel called to. They're amazing. I really enjoyed my reading with Nina. And like
Thank
it
you.
was like there was layers coming up for me afterwards. So it was definitely one of those like, yeah, it resonates in the moment, but then there's certain like things that you'd talked about where I was like 3 days later, like, that's the thing. Like, or like a week later, I was like, that's the other thing.
That's
So
my favorite. I love that.
yeah. So
And
very much
I
worth
also
it.
think, if you need any past life healing or ancestral work, definitely book with Leona. I mean, every session with her, like I said, is like coming out of a new layer of skin. Everything is always like put in perspective, and it's so much healing. And your integration tips are so helpful. And I always get like everything that I need when talking with you.
Oh, I'm so glad. I like wrote that integration tip article like really rushed. So I'm glad it resonates because I'm like, I hope
That
this
was
is
great.
good. Speaking of imposter syndrome. So I'm glad.
See, no, it's so great. It's so great.
Amazing.
Thanks so much for listening along this week, beautiful souls. I'm so excited we got to spend this time together. Just know that the deepest part of me loves the deepest part of you. I hope that the discussion Nina and I had this week really helps you lean into this idea of just chatting with your spirit guides day to day, asking them for signs and synchronicities. It doesn't have to be complicated. Really, you are the director of your own life. You're the captain of your own ship, and your spirit guides are going to meet you where you're at. So it's so fun for me to see someone who's taken my intuition bootcamp really take these concepts and run with it. So if you're interested in booking a reading with Nina, her readings are amazing. I had a really good time. She journeyed into the spirit world for me beforehand, and then her guides and my guides gave messages that she brought back to me. And even though I've been doing this for over 11 years, it sometimes just helps to have another practitioner go get advice for you, because you're less likely to block out what a practitioner says versus whatever you get or hear in a meditation or if you get a download. So sometimes it's just nice to lean into that, ask a practitioner to help you, and Nina's a beautiful choice for that. Also, the oracle cards are always beautiful, and I love to see those. So her booking info will be down below, and you can find her on TikTok and Instagram at Firefly Vibin. If you'd like to book in with me, I do past life sessions, so all of that will be linked down below as well. Go to lionheartleo.com/services to see the services that I offer. And if you'd like to join Intuition Bootcamp, like Nina and I talked about, that will also be linked in the description of this episode as well. So sending you all my love and light. I'm so happy that you were here to share this time with us. And go forward knowing that you are powerful and your guides have your back, because I believe that deep, deep, deep within my soul to be true. So have a wonderful day, friends. Thanks so much for being here.